President Biden's pick for senior Asia policy official helped found a nonprofit to promote Chinese language learning. But the group is now suspected to be heavily influenced by the CCP's propaganda agency.
Questions arise over President Joe Biden's incoming Asia policy czar, Kurt Campbell. He reportedly served as a top executive at a nonprofit suspected to be a front for Chinese Communist Party influence campaigns. That's according to an article by the Washington Free Beacon. The group is also called the U.S.-China Strong Foundation. Its entire website has since been taken down, but an archived website page lists Campbell as a vice chairman of the foundation. According to a Politico column he wrote in 2013, he launched the foundation as an independent nonprofit to help Americans to go to China and learn Chinese just weeks after Campbell left his position in the State Department under Obama. Part of the group's initial funding came from Chinese-American businesswoman Florence Fong. Fong is listed as the honorary president of the San Francisco chapter of the National Association for China's Peaceful Unification. The State Department says the group is part of the CCP's United Front Work Department, the Chinese regime's overseas propaganda agency. People working for the United Front often take advantage of economic and cultural exchanges to make connections with Western politicians, as well as academic and business leaders. The organization aims to influence the West-China policy. That's to make it more favorable toward the regime's strategic interests. Other leadership members of the U.S.-China Strong Foundation include Ronnie Chan. Chan is a U.S. citizen who served as an advisor for the Chinese regime's State Council. He's also a former Hong Kong official and head of a registered foreign agent group of the Chinese regime. The foundation's funding sources include Chinese conglomerate Wanxiang. The Chinese company gained public traction in recent years for its hundreds of millions of dollars of 2012 investment in a small energy firm, which was a client of President Biden's son Hunter at the time. A 2019 Financial Times report highlighted the company in an article titled Hunter Biden's Web of Interests. The U.S.-China Strong Foundation has touted the Chinese regime and its projects. It appeared to celebrate the founding of the Chinese military in a 2017 Twitter post, urging followers to read about an address by Communist leader Xi Jinping. The group had also partnered with China's Confucius Institutes, an organization promoted as a language and cultural exchange between schools in China and overseas. The State Department labeled it as a foreign mission last summer, saying it promotes Beijing's propaganda and exports censorship to U.S. campuses. An expert told the Washington Free Beacon that the U.S.-China Strong Foundation could be very heavily influenced by the CCP, so much so that it may be virtually the same as a front group.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says Biden has no plans to meet with GOP senators. That's after 24 of them sent him a letter asking to discuss concerns over recent executive orders targeting the energy sector. And President Biden has signed off on more executive orders in these first 9 days than any former president has reached within their first 2 months in office. The administration has faced a few lawsuits for these orders, and some have accused Biden of acting beyond his authority. NTD's Melina Weisskopf brings us a closer look at these executive orders and what they mean for Americans.
President Biden has signed around 40 executive orders in his first 9 days in office. Compare that with former Presidents Trump and Obama's records, it looks like Biden hit the ground running hard. Even Roosevelt, who has signed the most executive orders in history, didn't start off as aggressively as Biden. This has made some feel uneasy about how he will lead during his time in office. But how much will his orders impact Americans' daily lives?
People think of executive orders as an alternative way to legislate, but really what they're about is that the president generally has significant discretion in deciding how to enforce particular statutes, which ones to stress. There's always going to be a desire in the incoming party to say, well, the president before us was incompetent or lax or not doing enough.
A majority of the orders have addressed the virus response. But Gutzman says most of these orders have been about show rather than changing course.
I can't identify any of them that really represents to me a shift in direction, a real change in the way that the Trump administration has been handling the COVID problem, except, of course, there is more of a tendency in the Biden administration than there was in the Trump administration to want to federalize things.
But some other executive orders do have a substantial impact on Americans, like the 100-day deportation freeze, which was challenged in court and temporarily blocked by a federal judge.
This, I think, went beyond simple executive discretion all the way to making a change in policy, essentially policy that Congress had adopted through the legislative process. So,
another substantial order that directly impacts Americans is Biden's ban on energy leasing, which has also been challenged in court. Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
The Department of Justice charged an individual for his internet memes. He's accused of conspiring to interfere with the 2016 election through his memes. NTD's Christina Kim speaks to a legal expert on this case.
Social media influencer Douglas Mackey, also known as Ricky Vaughn, is accused of conspiring with others to interfere with people's right to vote. That's according to the DOJ, who arrested Mackey in his Florida home on Wednesday. In 2016, Mackey posted a series of internet memes to allegedly spread disinformation about the voting process. One image on his Twitter urged voters to avoid the line and vote from home by texting their votes to a number provided. The complaint says almost 5,000 different phone numbers responded to the image, but it's not known whether or not those people cast a real vote, too. Calling Mackey's actions reprehensible, Heritage Foundation's legal fellow Zach Smith explained the task ahead for the government.
Basically, the government has to prove that two or more people were involved in this conspiracy, that they intended to deprive someone of a federal right, and that the federal right was clearly established. In this case, it would be their right to vote.
Smith says because Mackey was charged of conspiracy, he doesn't actually have to be guilty of committing the actual crime.
Prosecutors charged it in this way because, you don't have to prove an actual deprivation of the federal right. You just have to prove a conspiracy and an intent to deprive someone of their federal right.
Because Mackey took actual steps to subvert voters from placing legitimate votes, he may not be protected by First Amendment claims. But Smith maintains that in general, broader protections of free speech is better for society.
But it is just the interesting legal questions of, potential misapplications of this statute in the future, in light of First Amendment concerns.
For now, it's unclear how this charge will play out and what, if any, impact it may have on the future of free speech in the age of internet memes. If convicted, Mackey could face up to 10 years in prison. Christina Kim, NTD News.
California's Department of Motor Vehicles grants a Chinese internet giant a new permit. It gives the company permission to test self-driving vehicles in a California county. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has the details.
Chinese internet search giant Baidu has been granted a permit by the California Department of Motor Vehicles used to test driverless vehicles. The company announced the news on Thursday. It allows Baidu to test autonomous vehicles without a safety driver on certain public roads within Sunnyvale and Santa Clara County. So far, 6 companies have been approved for similar permits. 4 of them are based in the U.S. 2 are headquartered in China, the other called AutoX. Nearly 60 companies have permits to test autonomous vehicles with safety drivers in the state. Last year, Baidu received permission to run similar tests in 2 Chinese cities, including Beijing. The Baidu search engine is one of almost 60 Chinese-made apps recently banned in India. The country's government cites concerns over data security and privacy risks.
2 women in California think something is fishy about the tuna at Subway restaurants. They filed a lawsuit claiming that the chain's tuna is not actual tuna. In the complaint, they say the fish is marketed as a premium product Subway uses in its sandwiches and wraps. But the women say independent tests couldn't find any tuna in it. Instead, they say testing found, quote, a mixture of various concoctions. We reached out to Subway and their spokesperson says there's simply no truth to the allegation, and that its tuna is not only real, it's even caught in the wild.
Hi, we're happy to announce that you can also catch us on cable TV now. Millions of households already choose us as one of their trusted news sources, and you can too. You can watch us in Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York, and many other cities as well. And if your system doesn't carry NTD yet, you can just give them a quick call and request NTD on your cable provider. Thank you for watching. See you next time.